Hello rugby fans and welcome along to Cornflakes Crib and another rugby discussion where we are having a look at the fantastic test match that was Samoa versus New Zealand, the first test match for the All Blacks of their calendar year for 2015 World Cup year as well. What a fantastic occasion it was. Now, before we get into the action as to what happened out there on the field and who impressed me, who didn't impress me, and I give you my opinions on what I think, and you know, you guys are always, as always, free to reply in the comments and let me know what you think in the comments or on Twitter or anywhere else you can get hold of me as well. That's what this rugby discussion's all about. But before we get to that, let me just say, well done to the Samoan Rugby Union, the New Zealand Rugby Union as well, for making this match happen. And it's good to see that, you know, the especially New Zealand Rugby Union has, you know, taken the hit that they possibly will receive for this match in the pocket, because let's be fair, they make a lot of money anyway, but for the good of the game. Not only that, for the good of rugby in Samoa. Now, we've talked a lot recently about World Cups going to countries where it will grow the game and blah blah, all that sort of thing. This is what grows the game. Top tier nations going to minnow nations. Oh, can you call Samoa and minnow? I think that's unfair. To lower tier nations. Let's say it that way. That's a better way. Samoa's no chump when it comes to rugby, and that's what we're seeing today as well. But this is a huge part of growing rugby. There's no big risk with the World Cup. It's a one-off match, and the impact it has had on Samoa, on world rugby, is pretty massive. So a big ups to them for getting this match sorted, going over there, doing the deed. It didn't matter what happened out on the field, I feel, as long as there was nothing horrifically contentious going on out there. It was always going to be the rugby is the winner on the day, and the sport in the small country, the small island of Samoa, is what come out on top. So good up to them, well done. Now the pressure is on you other nations, the Australias, the Englands, the Ireland, France, South Africa. It's up to all those other unions now to do the same. That's where the pressure is now, and why not have a tour to Fiji or Samoa or somewhere like that on the way to Australia or on the way to New Zealand or somewhere around the world. You travel to the big countries, why not stop off midweek game and on the way to another country? It's so possible, and it would make such a big difference. Now, this match here today, it was a great match. It was a festival for Samoa. It was a festival for their rugby. It was a great display. Perfect weather out there. Hardly any wind. It was beautiful ground, massive crowd, huge atmosphere, and what could only be described as an absolutely horrific game of rugby. There was nothing good to be seen out there. It was just about all bad news. Now, the All Blacks played a pretty strong squad. If you watched my preview of this match, you would have heard me say that I think we went out probably a bit too good, which is no offence to Samoa, but I didn't think they would risk the likes of Reid and McCaw, especially maybe Whitelock as well, in a match that really has no meaning. The rest of the team picked us out. They were short of a lot of players, but boy oh boy, it was a good All Blacks side, and they had a lot to prove as well. A lot of these players, as I spoke of in the preview as well, a lot of them have been out for a long time, a lot of debutants as well. There was a lot to be won for individuals in New Zealand's side. As for Samoa, everything they did was a win. But this match was messy. It was just completely disjointed. The start straight off the whistle was mistake, mistake, mistake. And I think what actually happened in this match would surprise a lot of people. Not only the score, which I think I was pretty close to, pretty on the mark with as well. I was not surprised with the score at all. I was surprised with how the points were accumulated, but we'll cover that at the end. The start was horrible. Samoa really struggled to get into the rhythm of the game, and it took them to about the half an hour mark till they really got into the continuity with each other, which I thought, they might have been onto it a bit quicker than that, but, no surprise there. First test match, the All Blacks were the same. No, they were horrific to start with as well. There was knock-ons, there was drops. One thing that was impressive was the defence. Now, both teams, especially Samoa were, unsurprisingly, let's be fair, Samoa has a reputation of being a massively hard-hitting defensive side. So the aggression from Samoa was evident right from the start, and that is what you expect when you come to Samoa. But, goodness me, I don't think the All Blacks fully expect or fully recognise what they were getting themselves into. The Samoan defensive line was fast, it was hard, and the All Blacks struggled to deal with that. They were committed massively on defence, Samoa, but both teams really lacked in defence. I think the All Blacks' defence was a lot more organised and didn't look as maybe aggressive as Samoa's did, but both teams defended exceptionally well for pretty much the whole match, it has to be said. The ball retention, though, was the attack that probably surprised me the most from both of these sides. Neither team really got any rhythm in their attack, and they turned the ball over a lot. The first 25 minutes, there was 11 turnovers, and that was in the period where Samoa looked completely, not out of their depth, but they just looked like they had no plan, they had no idea, they were rusty as hell, and they just were a bit lost for a start. But after that, going towards that half an hour mark, they did start creeping in. Neither team by this point had even looked like scoring a try. No one could contain the ball for more than a few phases, that was a surprise. Just, we knew the defence was going to be hard. Samoa is a massively hard team, but they just couldn't hold the ball. The All Blacks couldn't hold the ball. There was ruck turnovers. The rucks were absolutely smashing both teams, hitting them with a huge emphasis. So the rucks were big, turnovers were huge. Neither side really looked like scoring a try because the defences of the other was just too strong. One thing that did disappoint me about Samoa was their kicking, not really the option taking, but the execution, not finding touch off penalties a few times. That is a real disappointment. They couldn't put, the pressure on the All Blacks because they made silly mistakes like that. But you have to say, fair play to them. They were still in the match, and when they hit the half-time break. It was 12-3 at half-time to the All Blacks. No tries. It was 4 penalties to 1 penalty. That was a massive surprise. To think New Zealand, Samoa, no tries on a perfect day for running rugby. Yeah, that is surprising. Even for Samoa, they've got such attacking ability, but both teams' defence, like I've said, was just so good in that first half. There was a couple of chances for the two sides. Like I said, Samoa did wake up in the last 10 minutes of the half, but it was the defence, especially Samoa's rushing defence, shut down the All Blacks' attack. Big long passes trying to cut out the wave coming forward, only ended up in spot tackles for the poor man who was receiving that pass. But aggressively and attackingly, I should say, it was horribly messy. It was just completely disjointed, and it didn't make for very good viewing. It wasn't a very thrilling match to watch, but for all those Samoans watching there and any people visiting for that match, it was just a fantastic occasion. The atmosphere would have been so amazing that the rugby, like I said at the start, didn't really matter what standard it was played at. Now the second half kicked off, and boom, straight off the whistle, George Moala on debut gets his first test try. Now, this disappointed me quite. I'm a New Zealander, as you probably all a lot know, and sure, I wanted the All Blacks to win. I felt the Samoan side should really step it up to the mark, and they were good enough to step up to the level of the All Blacks. But at that point, when that try went over, it looked a bit like things might come a bit unstuck. It was a very, very poor defended play. The kick over the top, Moala picked it up. Two Samoan defenders crashed into each other pretty much, and Moala had a fairly clean run to the line, pretty much unopposed. Disappointing, I don't know if I wanted Moala to do well or not. Whether we'll see him in an All Black jumper again, I'm not too sure, but that's a discussion for another day. That try was weak defence, that's what surprised me, because Samoa had been so strong defensively, they had diffused everything, but they just didn't get anything right there. Straight off the second half, 6 minutes in, Moala scores, the try is done, Carter converts, and it looked like, can Samoa keep hold of things? Can they bring it back into their own side of things? So the game continued on where it left off in the first half. After that, there was more mistakes. Tim Nanai Williams, we'll get to specifics after this, but he was absolutely horrible. Dropped about the first 4 or 5 touches he had. Israel Dag, you know I'm going to pick on him because I said he needed a big one. He was rubbish. Absolutely rubbish. He got subbed off in the 53rd minute, and hopefully good riddance, we'll never see him again, but I don't think that will be true. You know, the kicking in the second half improved from Samoa, and Tusi Pisi, how good is his kicking boots? Boy, oh boy, he smashed one from 55, 60 metres out, and it hit the crossbar. Hit the crossbar, I couldn't believe it. It just sailed towards a post, and I was like, good God, this is going to go over. It was such a massive kick. He has one hell of a boot on him, Tusi Pisi. That did unfortunately miss, but boy, I was absolutely stunned by the range that he got on that boot of his. It was a great point, but things just continued, you know, the knock-ons, the mistakes, the ruck turnovers. The match didn't really get out of that stage of dominating defence. No one ever developed the ability to change things up and look for other things to happen, but in the end the defence just ruled. We got to about the 64th minute when Fa'asaliva, boy oh boy. Now if you want to see a really good try, Samoa, this was your moment. Fa'asaliva made a massive bust straight through the middle, managed to get a quick play of the ball, quick recycle and a fast ruck, then it was offloaded up. He got up from that ruck and chased forward and then got the offload away to himself to finish it off. He started the move, he finished the move, all created. Big surprise from a knock-on by Sonny Bill Williams. And that was a fantastic try, and the stadium literally exploded. I think the whole island probably exploded. Great play for Samoa, and they were back in the game, which was great to see as well. Fa'asaliva scored a brilliant try, and that was the only 2 tries in the game. I didn't think I'd be saying that when I was talking to you guys about this match. I thought it would be close, as I said, but I thought there would have been a few tries, maybe 3 to 5 each kind of thing. The kicking, maybe penalties, the difference in the end, which ultimately it was, but the tries just were not there. So things didn't go so well. The All Blacks started to get late injuries as well. The likes of George Moala went off with an injury. We also seen some massive big bump on Luke Romano that he actually played the rest of the match with, I don't know how. Other little nicks and knocks throughout the squad. A lot of players going off with different sort of bumps and bruises. I was excited to see Hikurelia. I thought he could make an impact in a black jersey, but was kind of nullified, made a couple of mistakes. No one really stood out as we looked through these sides for either of them, and it was just an ugly match. The entertainment factor wasn't at that level. I would have thought it was mistake-ridden. And it was just, after watching that Super Rugby final, I guess my standards possibly are a bit high, but it was just missing something. It was, Tuilangi was good. I really was excited when he got the ball and he made a big bruising run. And boy, he put some massive hits on. But while we're there, we might as well talk about the Samoan team and individual performances. We'll start with Tuilangi since we're already on him. Defensively, he was a monster. How many times he picked up George Moala and drove him backwards. And then on attack as well, he bumped off tacklers for fun. He is a real talent. He is a big man. He's a fast man. And he is super, super strong. He was a joy to watch. I feel in the first 40 minutes, Samoa probably didn't use him as much as they could have and should have, and probably wanted to as well, but he did come into the game, and like he said at the end of the match, hopes that this is a regular thing with the All Blacks as well, because Samoa, well, they're getting better, and like was mentioned on Twitter as well, year in and year out, Samoa just improve, and they've got fully professional side now that are going to definitely stack up in years to come. I'm excited to see the side at the World Cup. Other performances to note, I will say one bad point, Tim Nanai-Williams, I was excited to see you in the Samoan team, but boy oh boy, you made some absolute howlers. The hands were not there, the kicks, there was some absolute dreadful kicks going over as well from Timmy, but things just did not go his way, and the harder he seemed to try, the worse things seemed to come off. It's a first up performance from him. He's a fantastic player. I hope they don't give up on him after that performance, but he is a great player. Just had a very poor match, and I think if he was in a good mood on song with his top form, he could have made a big difference to this result and to the Samoan team as well. Alofa didn't get too many chances. He was a bit invisible out there on the wing. Poor Perez, I was impressed with this outside centre. He is quick. He is very fast. He mowed up Moala when he scored that try. Pace on pace. I was impressed with his ability around the field. Stuck out like a sore thumb with his big chrome dome on the top. He was good to watch. I was impressed with someone I had not seen before, and he was pretty decent. Johnny Leota did what Johnny Leota always does. Just solid, consistent, good defensively, and gets his passes away. A bit like a Conrad Smith kind of player. Does what he has to do. Bit invisible, but plays such a crucial role in how the team functions. Tusipisi and Khan Fatuali'i played well together. They, I thought, could have been a bit more influential on the match, but I think ultimately, end of the day, there was three men who were top shelf for Samoa, and that was Trevor Arnis, Lamb, and Fa'asoliva, the back row. They were beautiful. They were brilliant. They were on top of their game, and they were such a key element to how the Samoan side win. And you have to say, against them, Kano, McCaw and Reid, they stood up, to two of the great All Blacks, players of the year in years gone by. They stood up to them, and they matched them toe-to-toe. I was impressed with those three. They were very good. Also, the Samoan front row, Census Johnson gave away a few penalties, and I noticed now he's in trouble with Toulouse as well as club for coming back to international rugby. That's a shame. That is a real shame. That's a discussion again for another day about, these clubs trying to get island players to retire from international rugby so they don't have the commitment and lose them for international fixtures. But the forward pack was very good, I think, for Samoa. The backs, probably bar a couple, let them down in a lot of attacking play. The defensive play was good. As for the All Blacks, I'll go through them like I've said. Israel Dag, I'm not going to say any more about him. He was horrible. I would be happy just to see Ben Smith in number 15 for the rest of the All Blacks fixtures. And unless Ben Smith breaks a leg, I would be happy to not see Israel Dag again. Moala, does he have a future in a black jumper? He was probably one of the All Blacks' better players, but we don't have a huge amount of wingers. I would probably have a couple of others in front of him, but credit to him, he played well. He got the try, ultimately the only highlight for the All Blacks, and he had a decent match, went off with a knock. Don't know how serious that is. Ryan Crotty and Sonny Bill Williams were absolutely nullified by Leota and Perez. Didn't see anything flashy from Sonny Bill, but then again, we haven't seen anything flashy from Sonny Bill all season. Piatel as well, had a couple little jinky runs, but nothing too influential on the match. Carter was solid. Andy Ellis, don't think we'll see him in a black jumper anytime soon unless we have some big injuries, but they were good. They were solid. Just did the basics. That's about all you can say. Same with the forward pack. Nothing spectacular. Lots of mistakes, but no one really stood out for me in that. Woodcock was typical, trotting around the field, ruck to ruck, having fun. Nothing really stood out at all. McCaw made a few mistakes. He was good in the breakdown, though. I think those back rows for the All Blacks as well. There were some big plays in the breakdown. It was a good match. It was an interesting match. A lot to change and a lot to improve on for next weekend. Samoa, though, I have high hopes of where they're going to go. If they can keep this squad of 23, get those guys back that they had when they had a squad of 30 or so, they're going to be a good side. And when you look at their World Cup group as well, which I was looking at earlier, they have a huge chance of going somewhere in the World Cup. The quarterfinals are not an unrealistic dream for them. They're in a group with South Africa, Japan, Scotland and USA. Based on their performance and based on the players they have, I can see them demolishing those other sides. But it all comes down to, can Samoa play in foreign territory? I give 60% of that passion that they had was due to the fact that they were at home. A landmark match against the All Blacks. But can we see more of the Samoa? I would love to see more of the Samoa. I wasn't far off with my final prediction either. The difference was 9 points. I predicted about 15, so, not too bad. Would have liked to see more tries, less mistakes, more continuity between the side, better hands as well. But in the end, first hit out of the season, a win over Samoa in a match like this. A bit of a B team, if you will, as well. Plenty more action to come. The All Blacks will be there in a couple of weeks' time against Argentina. I think they kick their campaign off against. But for now, they'll be off. We'll get the Hurricanes and the Highlanders back in the mix, and we'll see how we go from there. But plenty more rugby discussions to come as well. Any other matches coming up? We have the Maori All Blacks as well in action this weekend. Plenty of rugby coming. Let me know what you thought of this match between Samoa and New Zealand. Hope it won't be the last, and we see plenty more from the island nations. But for now, for this little discussion about this match, that is me done and dusted. A good match, a great occasion. And I'll see you all next time for plenty more rugby topics as well. Hit that like and subscribe if you enjoy the discussions, and let me know, of course, what you all think in the comments below. Until next time, guys, thanks for tuning in and watching, and I'll see you wherever we may end up. Until then, take care.